Hello and welcome to Sunday service with me, Graham Hughes, and just like a real Sunday service, it's unreliable. I'm a bit late, but that's okay. I just want to say a big shout out to all our friends in the chat here. We've got Janeway in there. Hello, Janeway, Captain. Hi, Captain. Hi to Sarah Davis, to Martin Harrow. We've got Diz in there as well. Gunny and all. Listen, if you'd like to join our friends in the chat here, all you need to do is hit that big juicy subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Wait for a minute and you should be able to add your thoughts, speak your brains, so to speak. So today we're going to be talking about the Manosphere. Obviously, this has been something that's been in the news quite a lot over the last couple of weeks since the Netflix series Adolescence came out, which I really recommend you watch. It's very good. 4 episodes, each episode done in one single camera shot, or seemingly so. And it explores the toxic fallout from boys being radicalized by, radicalized online. This is something that I do not believe to be an accident or something that just happens. This is an organized, monetized pipeline. Misogyny, fascism, and conspiracy theories are gateway drugs to full-blown right-wing ideology, which is destroying the minds of young people in the same way that tabloid newspapers have destroyed the minds and reasoning capabilities of boomers. Progressive voices are fighting back, but we are underfunded, clearly, overworked, and at risk of burnout. We need radical, structural solutions to this problem, to this issue. There's not one size fits all. There's not a magic pill that we can take that will fix everything. We need education, we need regulation, and we need funding for counter narratives. This isn't a plea to shower me in super chats this morning, but we need to figure out a way to make sure that people who are creating progressive allyship online are given the resources they need. And it's not like they're asking for a lot. We are not Andrew Tate. We do not need a gold-plated swimming pool each. We would just like enough money to be able to pay our rent. Or, I don't know, aspirational, enough money to pay our mortgages one day. Which at the moment isn't happening. We can talk about this later, but one of the things that the right have is just a massive advertising budget. They've got a team behind them. They're not solo people doing everything all at once, doing the production, doing the prep for the shows, doing the research, doing the thumbnails, doing all the stuff that goes into these shows. Presenting them, obviously. They've got people because they've got money to pay people, down the pipeline. Got money to pay. Oh, here we go. Sarah Davis, thank you very much for the £2 super chat, Sarah. That's lovely of you. Thank you very much. Have one anyway. Oh, thank you. Okay, so let's get into this. So here's how the pipeline works. We've got the vulnerability phase, as they call it. That young men feel alienated, lonely, or inadequate due to isolation, economic insecurity, and toxic masculinity. Isolation has got much worse since the COVID pandemic, but also it's the fact that we're all buried in our phones all the time now, which I understand. It's only like having your face buried in a book or watching a movie. It's just that you can do that anywhere at any time now. We can move around while we do it. What's this, Katrina Tan? Thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Don't shower you in super chats, you say. That's fine. I don't want this to come across as like, oh yeah, it could be loads of money on it. It'll fix everything. It'll help, but it won't fix everything by any stretch of the imagination. But thank you so much to Sarah there and Katrina. Young men, they search for answers online like we all do. About dating, mental health, masculinity, self-worth. Now the thing is, when I was young, right, I had some really good role models. Do you know who my role models were growing up? The A-Team. Sam Beckett from Quantum Leap, Captain Picard from Star Trek, Arthur Dent from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Lister from Red Dwarf. I know these people weren't always perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but they always at least tried to do the right thing, even when it blew up in their faces. And there were the content that I consumed was always thus. The goodies won. The baddies always ended up with egg all over their face, and the people who are on the side of progressive values, the people fighting the evil galactic empire, they were the heroes and they won. Now what you're getting is a narrative for younger people who feel very much left out of society for two reasons. One is the isolation I just mentioned, but the other one is the absolute proliferation of domination. I say not proliferation, the domination of rich people who went to private school. You knew I was going to mention this, didn't you? Dominating all the fun jobs. They're the people with all the fun jobs. Now, who is out there who didn't go to private school necessarily, who's living that life, who's living the life of gold-plated swimming pools, jacuzzis, yachts, supercars, etc.? Well, people on the online toxic manosphere, people like Andrew Tate. Where are they getting their money from to get started? Because it's all very good. It's all very well. As people are, they go, just make the content, just make the content and make it engaging and make it okay. And it's like, yeah, you can get so far with that. Maybe you can get yourself up to 43,000 subscribers. But the reality is, if you do not have a marketing budget, if you don't have people promoting your shit left, right, and center, that you hit a limit, you hit a point, and you're like, man, it's just difficult to get beyond that. And so young men are looking at, like, how can I escape this the drudgery of everyday life, if you like? Is there an opportunity for me to do better in my life, to better myself? And those opportunities are vanishingly few. And what do people get attracted by? Well, it's just the same as the lottery, really. Crypto. Crapto, as I call it, like the get rich quick schemes. Go in the gym, because then you can self better. You can actually see the progress made there in the mirror. Meanwhile, you've got people like the privately educated James O'Brien on LBC doing a phone in this week about having to tell your kids that they're not good enough to make it. And I'm like, that's not a conversation that anyone who sends their kids to private school have. Otherwise, Matt Hancock wouldn't have been a thing. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be particularly talented. If you go to a private school, or, you're in that circle, the sky's the limit. The sky is the bloody limit. And these people who just keep failing upwards, like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, the ultimate Nepo babies. So yeah, we've got the vulnerability phase, as we call it, the young men searching for answers about dating, mental health, masculinity, self-worth. And then you have the discovery phase, which is social media algorithms recommend slightly edgy content, grind set, hustle culture, fitness, dating tips, how to pick up women, manfluencers. Is that a word? Manfluencers use these as bait to introduce misogynistic talking points under the guise of self-help. And then you have the indoctrination phase. Viewers are exposed to what we call red pill ideology, which is maddening for so many reasons, mostly because the Matrix was written by two transgender women. Anyway, this red pill ideology shows women as being manipulative and the men are the victims in all this. The vast majority of violence against women is perpetrated by men, but somehow men are the victims in all this. The vast majority of sexual assaults are perpetrated against women, but men are the victims, really, if you think about it. Don't think about it too hard. Just, we've got One Angry Pagan, who has been a member now for 22 months. Wow, he's really stayed with the channel. Thank you very much, One Angry Pagan. Apparently, preferring science to women isn't manly. You can have both. Data physicist. Then you've got the indoctrination phase. Should we talk about the community reinforcement begins. Echo chambers form in YouTube comments, on Discord servers, and on Reddit. And then you have the radicalization phase. So ideas escalate to black pill, incel ideology, conspiracy theories, white nationalism, and violent rhetoric. Influencers monetize their audience through paid courses, merchandise, or crypto. And this causes real world harm, violence, harassment, mental health breakdowns. We saw that the murderer of 3 women who was sentenced a couple of weeks ago, before he went and committed that terrible crime against his ex-girlfriend for dumping him and his ex-girlfriend's sister and their mother, murdering them all in a brutal fashion. He watched Andrew Tate videos before he did it. So, real world harm. We're seeing also the increased support for authoritarian policies, fascism, and the undermining of democracy. Real world harm. This is what we're talking about. Real world harm. Because these manfluencers are causing the younger generation to go to the right. And I'll tell you why this is happening, right? I'll tell you now, because we're only going until 9:45. Then I'm going to shunt you over to Sunday Roast with Alex, and Big Mad Studios is on this week. And I know some gobby scouser with a ginger beard, he's on it as well. So you might want to watch it. You'll be shunted over to that channel whether you want to or not. If you don't stop at the end of the credits, you'll be shunted over to Political X to go and watch Sunday Roast and see me pontificating with my online buddies. But yes, the reason is those graphs that we saw a few years ago, which showed that younger generations were becoming more and more progressive. So as they got older, so this is bucking the trend. So normally, traditionally, as people got older, as they owned more stuff, they tended to get more and more right wing because they liked their stuff. They didn't want someone to come and take it away from them, and they live in perpetual fear that the other, that could be a foreigner, it could be someone with a different religion, it could be someone with no religion, it could be someone who looks different, has a different skin color, it could be someone who's trans, it could be someone who's gay, it could be someone who's a lesbian, it could be someone who's disabled. Someone is coming to take away their house. And so they become all their stuff, not just the house, but their stuff. And so they become more and more right wing. Generation X has followed this trend, but not to the same extent as the boomers. But then you've got the millennials. And what's interesting about the millennials is that they're not having midlife crises or crises. Why not? Why would they not? Why would midlife crisis not be a thing anymore? The American Beauty kind of like, oh my God, I'm in my 40s and I hate my job. I'm going to tell my manager to piss off, buy a sports car, and get a girlfriend in her 20s. Yeah, that's not happening anymore because the millennial generation, which I see myself as part of, even though I'm kind of like an older millennial, have just reeled from one crisis to the next. There was 9/11, and then a few years later there was the credit crunch, we had austerity, we had Brexit, we had Trump, we had COVID, we had the invasion of Ukraine. It is just one crisis after another. And so we're in an omni crisis, there's not time to go, I want to go back to that. I'm bored of my quiet life. You can't get bored, unfortunately. I'd love to be bored. To be honest with you, I'd love for the news to be boring, but it's not. And the other thing is that millennials just don't own stuff like previous generations used to. My parents' generation, they would have paid off their house by the time they were my age, because the house only cost like £2.50 to buy. Okay, yeah, the wages were a shilling, but you could still pay off your house in like 10 years. You're talking about mortgages now that are never going to get paid off. The cheapest starter houses are like over £200,000, which is unrealistic for someone who's on £20,000 a year to ever be able to pay off. You're just not going to be able to do it, and also pay for the everyday expenses of life. Transportation costs a fortune, energy costs a fortune, food costs a fortune now. A pint of beer has doubled in price. And so they've got nothing to lose. So they're not becoming more right-wing as they get older, because they're like, well, fuck it. What else have they got to take away from me? Leanne Scott is there saying, good day, everyone. Late, so no need to apologise, Leanne. The important thing is you're here now, okay? And One Angry Pagan, thank you very much. I never understood incel creeps. Badgers are better. Well, yes. Alchemist saying young people are well, yeah, Generation F. Yeah, Generation F in so many ways. But yeah, we'll come to this. So you've got the millennials who are becoming more and more left-wing as they get on, more and more progressive, because for those reasons I just outlined. And then you've got the Generation Z, which was doing the same thing. That the kids in school today generally are more understanding and progressive towards marginalized groups, traditionally marginalized groups that my generation, my cohort weren't particularly friendly to. I know the Generation Xers certainly weren't, and the boomers were even bloody worse. They didn't even like people writing with their freaking left hand, for Christ's sake. Jesus Christ. Anyway, this isn't just the whole thing to have a go at boomers. I'm just saying that their particular generation is a generation where they have been force-fed all their life, manipulated content through the guise of newspaper tabloids and shit like that. They've been primed to hate anyone who's a bit different, who's a bit, Meghan Markle, for instance. I wonder why all the newspapers hate her so much. I wonder, any ideas? Tell me in the chat why all the newspapers hate Meghan Markle just so much. So what I saw, and what the billionaires and the tech bros and the oligarchs and the online fash, what they saw was the fact that they are dinosaurs, that they can see the meteor coming down. They're never going to win another election. The Tories are never going to win another election. The Republicans are never going to win another election, because the younger generations are becoming more and more progressive. And these people are conservatives. They stand in the way of progress, and they hate everyone who's different, right? And so they panicked. Actually, no, they didn't panic. It's a bit of a left-wing trope, panicking. Have a look at how the Democrats are doing right now. No, they didn't panic. They got together and they went, we need to make sure that young men vote for Trump, vote for the Conservatives, vote for refuck. How do we do that? And they created this toxic pipeline. They laid it all out. They laid it all out. The vulnerability phase, the discovery phase, the indoctrination phase, the radicalization phase, and the real world harm that then comes of it. They planned it all to a T. And they funded gobshites online, like myself, to spread bullshit to young men. Stuff that seems attractive, something that seems that, it's going to help them. Self-improvement, self-help. It's why it's nearly always tied in with the, not just like the gym culture and the, masculine sports, MMA, boxing, etc. But also they draw them in through like dating advice and how to pick up women. So it's all about sex, and then it's all about crypto, get rich quick schemes, all these scams that attract young minds, because they're like, okay, I'd like my life to be exciting. Thank you very much. And this has all been planned. This has all been planned with the same kind of psychological sniper, like a laser sight, on a sniper rifle. Like it's that accurate. It's that accurately done by psychologists working for the tech bros, the billionaires, the oligarchs who want to stay in power forever. And if we're going to have democracies, if we're going to live in democracies, they had to corrupt democracy in order to stay on top. And we saw it with the last election, with Trump. he gained votes amongst the young. It wasn't overwhelming by any stretch of the imagination, but it didn't need to be. He only won by about 200,000 votes. Yeah. So we've got, billionaire-backed media networks like Daily Wire, Rumble, etc., and dark money-funded content farms. We've got Silicon Valley libertarians and tech pros who benefit from chaos and social destabilization. And we've got the Christo-fascist political operatives using culture wars to erode public institutions, do away with any kind of regulation. That's a big thing for them. They want to do away with any kind of regulation that can stop this kind of stuff being put online and radicalizing young men into committing the most unspeakable crimes. We've got in the chat here, we've got another super chat from One Angry Pagan. Thank you. After Thatcher abandoned the post-war consensus, wealth inequality has ballooned, pretty much interrupted, leaving millennials and Gen Z owning fuck all. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you very much for the super chat there, One Angry Pagan. You are right. You are absolutely right. 90% of the wealth held in our country is held by boomers. 90%. And all the rest of us, all the other cohorts, are having to scrabble over the last 10%. That includes the greatest generation, who are all dying off now, who've actually fought in World War II. The silent generation, who came after them before the boomers. That includes the millennials, the Gen Z, and now Gen A are coming up, or Gen F, maybe we should call them. And so, you see these common manosphere tropes. Women only want rich men, which isn't true, because I've got a smoking hot girlfriend who, she's much better paid than I am. And does that undermine my masculinity? Fuck no, it doesn't. I couldn't give a shit. I fucking love it. I'd like to be earning more, to be clear, but it allows me to do the fun stuff that I want to do. It allows me to come and talk to you every day. I couldn't do this without Catherine. So, that's bullshit. I know that the plural of anecdote is not data, but there's women who get with men every day, and the men aren't rich. That's an unattainable nonsense. And speaking as someone who's never really had that much money, I'm not working class I'm not. I don't claim to be. I hate it when people who are rather posh in the whole scheme of things say, "Oh yeah, I'm working class because my mum worked or my dad worked." My mum's still working, mate. She's 75. She's still working a full-time job. Hi, Mum. And she still finds time to watch my shows. But yeah, I'm very middle class. Very, very middle class. But at the same time, when I traveled the world, I did so as a bloody tramp. There was a point to that. I didn't want to look like I had much on me. I didn't want to look like I had an expensive laptop. Well, I didn't. It only cost me 100 quid. But I didn't want to look like I had an expensive camera that I was filming stuff on. Yeah, I wanted to give the impression that I wasn't worth robbing, which works because I didn't get robbed, or mugged or anything. But I certainly didn't suffer as a consequence of that. It wasn't like I couldn't even talk to girls because I didn't have the money, and they wouldn't think I was impressive because I didn't have the money. It's honestly the least of the bragging rights that I usually reserve, and sometimes I just didn't tell. I didn't tell people that what I had done, that I've been to every country in the world. I didn't tell them. See that light over there see that green light at the end of the dock? That's my island over there. Reach out over the sound to the island. See, I didn't have to do that. I mean, let's be clear, I did do that a couple of times, but mostly I just went out and had a good time. I was just myself. My usual bubbly personality takes an interest in what people have to say. Feminism ruins society. This is another thing. Feminism ruins society. No. Do you know what ruins society? Rich people wanting to keep all their money. Yeah, that's what ruins society, mate. Disaster capitalism. That's what ruins society. Real men don't show emotion. This is another thing. What? This is another nonsense thing from an earlier age. And all that mentality did was just mess up a whole generation of people who are in wars. But then you look at the poetry of Siegfried Sassoon or Wilfred Owen from World War One, and you're like, real men don't show emotion? Please. And my personal favourite, men are the real victims now. No, they're not. They're just absolutely not. This is a classic case of Darvo, which, reverse offender and victim. And you see this time and time again. Trump does it all the time. Liz Truss does it all the time. Oh, I'm actually the victim of all this, if you think about it. Trump, the most powerful man in the world. He's actually the victim. We also hear this shit from the likes of Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, but he's a victim. The woke mind virus killed his daughter. All right, mate. Then the other one is this anti-woke nonsense. You're not successful because of wokeness. No, you're not successful because all the top jobs are absolutely hogged by people who are born rich. That's why you don't have a top job. That's why I'm not a millionaire. That's why people out there who are great actors and great writers, great diplomats, great directors, the people who are just obscenely talented. I'm not necessarily saying I'm obscenely talented, but I'm a bit talented, right? I am. I know that sounds really arrogant, but fuck it. Nobody else could have done what I did at the time that I did it. No one else could have. I don't know. After I finished the journey to every country in the world, I thought, oh, that was easy. Yeah, it was easy for me. But I've come to realize years later that actually what I did was quite remarkable. And if it wasn't for my superpowers like ADHD, being able to sleep anywhere, not being, being able to go without going to the toilet for a week. If I didn't have those superpowers, then, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it. And if I was a woman, I couldn't have done it because it would have been too freaking dangerous. Let's be serious here. Because that's the world that we live in. And this idea that wokeness, get people, when everyone uses the word fucking woke, get them to define it. Say, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by woke? What? You mean politeness? You mean being nice? Do you know how I got around the world? By being woke. By being nice and pleasant to everyone that I met. I wasn't nice and pleasant to some fucking police officers who were having a go at me at the side of the road in Brazzaville in Congo. And what happened? I spent 6 days in a prison cell. 6 days locked in a prison cell with a bit of moldy, wet, foam to sleep on and no food. No food for 6 days, Graham. That's what you get for not being woke. That's what you get for not being decent or polite. It was a harsh life lesson. Yeah, so be decent. Be a good person. Get people on side. The idea that wokeness is the reason why society is failing right now is so evidently daft to the likes of you and me. We look at it, fuck, that's not the problem, man. That is not. Let me tell you what the problems are. But yet, it's just not getting through, is it? Because woke is a really easy word to say, and it's just a reiteration of political correctness. When I was growing up in the 90s, all we ever heard was, oh, it's political correctness gone mad. Now it's woke gone mad. It just means the same thing. It just means being polite, being decent, chivalry even. How about we have some channels where you have an aristocratic English gentleman whose lineage goes back to the Knights of the fucking Garter or something, and explains how you should treat people with respect, from high and low and whatever gender they are, whatever sexuality, whatever religion, just treat people with respect. And the British Empire was woke in some respects. I know that sounds like the maddest thing that you could possibly say, but the British Empire that went around raping and pillaging and killing everywhere. Yes, actually, some of the places where it was successful, where other empires failed, like in certain parts of India, were a result of wokeness. What was the wokeness? They allowed the people in the areas that they were sort of taking over to practice their own religion, whether that was Hindu, Buddhism, Islam, whatever it was, Jainism, Zoroastrianism. They allowed them to continue to practice that religion. They encouraged them to convert to Christianity, perhaps, but they didn't force it. The Christian Portuguese, the Spanish, and the French often went to other countries and they forced their language, they forced their culture, they forced their religion on people who weren't part of that religion. And so in a lot of cases, they failed in places that actually the British Empire was successful. Why? Because the British Empire was more woke. How mad is that? And I'm not making excuses for the British Empire. It was a fucking terrible idea. I'm saying it just worked better in certain areas because of wokeness. Because it went, no, it's all right. We can have multiculturalism. You can keep your religion. I mean, we used it to play off different groups against each other, divide and rule. Oh yeah, we absolutely did that. Like I say, I'm not defending the British Empire here. I'm just saying that, like, if it wasn't for wokeness, the British Empire wouldn't have got as far as it did. Isn't that mad? Yes, it is. How can you say something that facilitated the slave trade for hundreds of years was woke? Yeah, well, what can I say? I just did. What ended the slave trade? Wokeness. Being decent people. Being like, okay, right, we need to stop this. This is awful. I mean, that was the intent from people like William Wilberforce. Of course, for the people who owned the slaves, they realized that it wasn't economically viable. It got to a point where it didn't make any economic sense what they were doing. But they plowed on with it because people are fucking thick like that. They're like, oh, this is sadistic. This is horrible. I get to treat people like shit. I enjoy that, even though it's not economically viable. It's not morally viable. It's not economically viable. Does that remind you of anything? I'm not going to equate slavery with Brexit because obviously one is the greatest crime against humans ever committed and the other is just Brexit. But like, the reality is that the same mentality of, yeah, I know this is bad for me. I know it's bad for society. I know it's bad for the economy, but let's keep doing it, was applied to slavery as was applied to Brexit. People were prepared to fight and die for their right to keep slaves in the US when they had their civil war. Wow. Right, I've only got 10 minutes. I'm really going to have to slam through the last portion of the show. So apologies to everyone in the chat if I'm not reading out your chats because I've got to get finished by 9:45 on the knocker because I need to shunt you over to Sunday Roast. So how do we fight it? Legislation. Enforce the digital age of consent, like the Australian model. No social media under 16. We need to introduce hardware controls for parental lockouts, time limits, and app level access. We need to have separate devices for children. Simple as that. We don't have a device. Someone described it on the radio a few weeks ago as, imagine there was a building in your neighborhood that was filled with pedophiles. Would you let your child go in that building? No. Well, why'd you let them online then? Exactly. So we have child-friendly, versions of phones, right? Phones, tablets, laptops that can only use the apps. They're hardwired like Nintendo games. You know what I mean? Like, you could only play Game Boy games on a Game Boy, right? You couldn't go on the internet and look at anything that you wanted to. Not that you could see much on a Game Boy anyway, but you get my meaning. You have it, so what Apple do with their phones where you can only use certain apps, you have an Apple Junior phone, right? Apple's a good name for a children's thing, so that's good. But yes, A for Apple. And they don't allow you to have Safari. You just don't have it. You don't have an internet browser on there. You have a Wikipedia app that allows you to look things up on Wikipedia, and you have YouTube on there, but it's YouTube Junior, and that's the only one that you can look at. YouTube Kids, I think they call it. So that's it. You know, you can only look at those videos that are vetted by YouTube as being suitable for children. No access to the Andrew Tate stuff. No access to Reddit. No access to Discord. And I know that seems a bit shit because when you're a teenager, you want to push the boundaries. But if you are given an adult phone with any kind of software lock on it, they can get around it. You need a hardware lock that requires like literally taking the phone apart and soldering a new CPU into it in order for it to actually allow you to access any of what we're going to call adult content. I don't mean necessarily sexual. I just mean Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. You don't get access to these things through the phone that you have got. Don't do this thing. We're going to take the phones off them. That's how we're going to solve it. That's not going to solve it. I'm telling you now, that's not. It's a ridiculous idea. It's not going to happen. We can't put that particular genie back in the bottle. But what we can do is force manufacturers to make child versions of their phones, which are safe, which do not allow access to harmful content at all. And if they do, we can sue the manufacturer. How's about that then? Do you like that? Do you like that, Apple? Yeah? Do you like that, Sony? Do you like that, Samsung? We will sue you. And our government can do this. Our government has a majority of 200. Jesus, it can do anything it wants. Anyway, so we need to regulate algorithms and hold platforms accountable for radicalization. Absolutely. And we see examples of this kind of thing in other countries, like in Australia, where they've brought in rules about online harms. We also need mandatory media literacy in schools, emotional intelligence and gender respect training from early years, support for teachers and parents to identify early signs of radicalization, and programs that are in place that you can sign up to, so your kid goes to an after-school activity club, but actually it's a club where they teach them not to be horrible misogynistic dickheads. Support progressive creators. Look, again, this isn't necessarily about me, all right? I'm not saying, quick, give me all your money. But we need to fund creators making pro-social, empathetic content. We need platform building grants for diverse voices, which do not get out there because we don't have the backing of the billionaires. We don't have the backing of the Elon Musks and the Peter Thiels of the world. We don't get that money. This idea that there's a check in the post coming from George Soros for me, I will fucking love that check, checking my bank account every fucking day to make sure that I'm not going into the red and paying off all the interest on all my fucking loans that are still, costing me so much money. Every week, every freaking week, I'm checking this stuff. And it's horrible. It's horrible keeping your head above water, not having any savings, not having any pension plan, not having a car, not having a house of your own. And I'm 46. 46. And the only things I've got to show are the things I've done. To go, ta-da, I did this, I did that, I did the other. Maybe I could sell the island in Panama, maybe, but it's going underwater, guys. It's going under fucking water. You're lucky to get a pan of scouse for it. Anyway, moving on. So mandatory media literacy in schools and support for teachers and parents. We also need to, when we talk about supporting progressive creators, we need a collective infrastructure, unions, creator co-ops, and better mental health support for creators. I'm trying to put together a creative co-op at the moment called the Impressive Foundation, but we can't even get pre-seed funding for it. Never mind seed funding. We can't get pre-seed funding from the rich people because they don't want to spend money on stuff like that. They've got no interest in it whatsoever. And it's a big difference between people on the left and people on the right. People on the left seem to just, they look at what's in front of them. They look at immediately, we need to solve this problem. We need to put out this fire. We need to do something about X, Y, Z, right? They never seem to think years into the future. But the other side do. Oh my God, the other side think years into the future. They're like, okay, who's going to be voting for us in 10 years' time? The left are just like, oh yeah, people will vote for us because they'll see the error of their ways, It'll be self-evident. I mean, the facts will speak for themselves, won't they? No, not bad. Facts do not speak for themselves. Facts are not in abundance at the moment. You know what's in abundance? Fake news, bullshit, the conspiracy theories, the misogyny. That's all over the place. And that doesn't need to speak for itself because it's massively fucking funded. So we need facts not to speak for themselves, but to be funded so people go down a pipeline of progression rather than going down a pipeline of proto-fascism. We need exit ramps. We need to promote communities like incel exits on Reddit, an ex-red pill on Reddit as well. We need to elevate male creators who openly discuss leaving the manosphere. People like our friend Jimmy the Giant. And we need to provide therapy and mentorship programs for recovering extremists. Absolutely, looking at kids. We've got to do something about these influencers who are still online. Andrew Tate and his horrible brother. Andrew Tate's first name is like something really posh. It's like, I've forgotten what it is. His real name isn't Andrew, it's his middle name. And his brother called Tristram. Yeah. Good working class lads, I'm sure. Fresh and Fit. This has got 1.6 million subscribers. It's still active. It's misogyny monetized as podcast banter. If you look up, please don't, but if you go into incognito mode, look up Fresh and Fit. The first results that come up are all about hating women. Then you've got a dickhead like H. Pell Davis, who has 1.9 million subs. She spews trad-wife fascism, not feminism, trad-wife fascism and white nationalist talking points. She's a woman in the Manosphere promoting anti-feminism. Sneeko, recently retired Sneeko, but his legacy still circulates through repost accounts. And Aidan Ross, also no longer active after many bans. He was banned off Twitch, and then he was on Kick for a while, but I don't know. He's coming back for a rebrand or something. But he was famous for his anti-Semitic and misogynistic content. And we need to look at these influencers and build a better alternative, because it's not like you necessarily go straight into the Andrew Taints. You start at something like, I would say, The Critical Drinker or someone like that, where they go, you watch it and you think, oh, this is a bit like Frankie Boyle, this is funny, he's like taking this, but then you watch a few more episodes and you realize that man is very, very deeply misogynistic. And that is a gateway to your algorithm pushing you towards more misogynistic content. So it might not be about misogyny. It might not be about dating advice or crypto to get started. It might be about cars. It might be about engineering, building bridges, an engineering channel that is feeding into the alt-right pipeline. And we need to build a better alternative. We need to do this together. We need to empower young men to see vulnerability, kindness, and consent as strengths rather than weaknesses, which they absolutely are. We need to promote an emotional literacy and diverse masculinities. We need to encourage curiosity, critical thinking, and community beyond these online cliques. And we need to provide spaces online and, crucially, offline, real places where boys can feel like they belong without being radicalized. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a sports club. This is the way the Tories have pushed it also. If you're not good at sports, you're likely to get pushed into that that online world because you're going to be spending more time inside. We need more youth clubs to open up, and we need more after-school activities. We need more groups where you don't necessarily have to be great at a sport, which most of us aren't, let's face it, in order to take part in these extracurricular activities. It really needs to be funded well, because a lot of the extracurricular activities cost a lot of money, and so working class kids don't get to participate in them because the parents simply can't afford the subs. Any parents out there will know what I'm talking about when I say that. And then we've got the fact that a lot of kids are buried in their tablets, buried in their phones, because parents don't really know what how much they're using it. And there are parental content moderation that you can have, and you can set how long your kid can use on their phone, but you don't necessarily know what they're using all the time. And we have stuff like Roblox, which has been used by people to groom children, and the CEO is asked about this, and he says, well, no, the parents should be looking at it. It's the parents' fault somehow, because they should be more aware of what their kids do. And you can't watch your kids 24/7. And like I say, there's no panacea, there's no one size fits all. There is a group of policies that we need to have done as a government, and we have policies that we need to do in the school level, on a community level, and on a personal level that we need to do better than what we're doing at the moment. The Manosphere preys on pain. It turns hurt into hate, and every share, view, click is monetized, and it is weaponized. Silence and cynicism are their best friends. Hope, empathy, and action are ours. And the question isn't why boys fall for this. I mean, that's pretty obvious, I think. It's what are we doing to stop it? And that's what I'd like you to take away and have a think about. Okay, I'll be back tonight, maybe. I might do a Where the Fuck Are We tonight. Should we do a Where the Fuck Are We? I might do that, or I might do a Sunday night social. I don't know. See how I feel. I'll be definitely back for 9 o'clock tomorrow, when we'll be back with Morning Brew. One Angry Pagan, quickly, super chat sneaked in there under the line. Steve Irwin showed me how a man should be a good man. Yeah, his enthusiasm was contagious, I have to say. A great loss that was. Okay, so I'm going to head off now. I'm going to shunt you over to the Sunday Roast show with me and Big Mad Studios and Alex Political X. So stay tuned and you'll automatically go there at the end of this show. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye. Give us a like.